How's it going, everybody? This is Dave Meltzer. We're here for the next 2 hours talking pro wrestling with Bryan Alvarez, and we're also going to have Frankie, the future KAZARIAN of Ultimate Pro Wrestling. He's going to be joining us in about a half an hour, so we can talk about his career, Ultimate Pro Wrestling, life on the indie scene, his hopes, and all, as well as, of course, the current wrestling news, and there's no shortage of that. Let's see. I guess, anything you want to start with, Bryan, or do you want to start with SmackDown last night?
We can start with SmackDown.
Okay. SmackDown. We got a lot of comments on SmackDown. Again, in fact, I'm going to read this first. This was actually someone who just sent to me from Chad Shepers, who says, I attended SmackDown in Louisville. The show was definitely better than Raw. However, that's not saying much. Once again, the best matches were the non-SmackDown matches. I've been to all the WF events in Louisville in the last couple of years, and I've never seen dark matches that got so much crowd reaction as they did last night. I've seen the OVW wrestlers in dark matches before, but last night you could tell they really have improved. The guys who got heat were getting legitimate heat, unlike when everybody was chanting X-Pac sucks. Also, the guys who were the babyfaces got huge pops. In fact, the biggest pop of the night was Brock Lesnar doing the shooting star press. Rico Constantino was impressive. In fact, he sat right next to me once SmackDown started and was a very nice guy. Well, that's nice. I mentioned to him that I enjoyed him on your show, and he had nice things to say about it. Well, that's nice of him. Also, Randy Orton's very much improved. I've been watching him on OVW TV, but he seems more poised last night than I've ever seen him. He knows how to work the crowd, and his finishing move got a huge pop. It's great to see young talent like this, but it's also sad when you go to see the WWF, and the best thing on the show is OVW. It's really sad.
You know, I haven't seen like a lot of Ohio Valley in like the last 2 or 3 months, so I don't know what the guys look like now. And I wonder if it's so much that they're really that good, or if it's just the fact that there's fresh faces doing decent to good matches that, you know, it's a change.
Yeah, I think it's I mean, I'm probably...
Or a combination of both.
I'm probably about 3 weeks behind with the last TV that they've sent me. And, I mean, the guys get better all the time. Randy Orton showing improvement and all that, but, I mean... With the exception of a match with, was it Rico Constantino and Nick Dinsmore that was on their show maybe, I'm guessing 4 weeks ago, there isn't one match that I've seen on OVW that would look good on Raw. That match would have been actually one of the better matches on Raw of almost any week. In fact, it would have been, it was better than the Benoit match the other night, so it would have been the best match on Raw last Monday. But, most of the stuff, it's fresh faces. I think there's a clamoring for that. Anyway, we'll start with the SmackDown. First of all, as far as dark matches, Brock Lesnar and Shelton Benjamin won the OVW Southern Tag Team titles over the Disciples of Sin, my favorite tag team, with my favorite manager, and with Brock Lesnar doing the shooting star press, the only 300-pound shooting star press in America, or Japan, or anywhere. As far as heat goes, it really doesn't matter because we're not going to see any of that stuff anyway because the heat show in the United States is going to be... it's going to be from Sacramento live anyway, but for those of you in England, Australia, and everywhere else, I don't even know if they get heat in Australia. I know they do in England, but there's a show there, nothing big other than the RTC losing streak ends, although it doesn't count because we don't get to see it here. That's the rules of the WWF. If we don't get to see it, it doesn't count.
It never happened.
It never happened. And I think the people in England don't like that, judging from some of the emails.
That's right.
Yeah.
How about these fans that pay to see heat? Getting screwed.
In what sense?
I was kidding.
Okay. Anyway, SmackDown.
Hey, by the way, isn't SmackDown in San Jose next week?
No, Raw's in San Jose on Monday, and SmackDown's in Anaheim on Tuesday.
Okay, so you're not going to see it?
SmackDown? No, it's in Anaheim.
Or the Raw show. You could go to Raw.
I could go to Raw, but I'm not. I'm going to watch it on TV. It's Monday night. It's pretty darn tough. I mean, Monday night's night I get everyone in the world calling me up after TV. You know what I mean? I'll go to a Tuesday taping, but and stay up till 5 in the morning finishing the Observer. But it's not good for me to go to a Monday taping. Plus, I mean, plenty of people. I mean, there'll be going to be so many readers at that one and listeners at the San Jose, so it's no problem. It's not like we're not going to know what's going to happen or what happened. Anyway, Undertaker's wife was not in a car wreck. It was a prank, and I'm sure that shocks like everyone.
Yeah.
And Undertaker revealed that not only did the police get a prank phone call, but Undertaker's wife, Sarah, got a prank phone call saying her mother was in a wreck, and that's why she wasn't home when he called. So anyway, that was the storyline, and he blames Austin, and he's going to get Austin. And, of course...
Don't the police trace phone calls?
Yes, they did. They did, but they didn't trace it yet. They traced it midway through the show.
I see. Okay.
Well, you got to remember, it's like Les Thatcher. We'll blame Thatcher. He's going to be on the show Friday. It was his guys that are the police officers.
That's true.
At that Heartland Wrestling School, they got good police tracing equipment. Anyway.
I kind of thought you might trace it right when the call came in.
You might.
It's pretty pathetic when we're looking for logic on the SmackDown show.
Well, we're not even getting close to logic on wrestling, let alone right now. Yeah, this was the old another one of those Bret Hart references, wasn't it? It's like every single what?
I don't think that's I don't think that they spoof that one. Maybe they would.
No, I don't think they did it consciously. But it just was
something everybody knew.
Yeah. Let's see. So anyway, it ends up, Hardy's and Eddie Guerrero beat Perry Saturn, Dean Malenko, and Jerry Lynn when Guerrero beats Malenko clean. And the Hardys and Lita are all talking about whether they can trust Eddie Guerrero. And Lita says, China told me that we can't. And then Eddie comes in and says basically that maybe China's right. So I don't know.
What the hell is a lasso from El Paso?
I don't know. That's what it said. That's what I heard. We'll find out. I don't know. Let's see. Austin showed up, and William Regal tells him that the Undertaker's wife deal was a hoax, and he is stunned. And if he acts like any better than he acted on Monday, I don't think that it'll be that good. Bradshaw pinned the Big Show with Test helping out. God. You're going to watch that one and fast forward, I bet. Undertaker attacked Austin in the dressing room, but Austin told him that he didn't do it, that Triple H did it. Undertaker said he'd never Austin said he wouldn't mess with someone's wife.
You can see where this is going right now.
I saw where it was going before it even started.
The thing with swerves is, a swerve is supposed to be something that you don't see coming. And it's to the point now where we have seen this stupid swerve so many times that it would be a swerve if at the end of the show they actually got in a fight.
Yeah, this is like something that's probably happened on 3 or 4 different episodes of Nitro. By the way, so at some point today when the website is back, the website's working, but I can't post because there's a server problem. But anyway, when there is no longer a server problem, there will be a story on the Observer website, and I discussed this I discussed every single thing in wrestling and my traumatic experiences from childhood that are all coming back to haunt me.
Hey, I'm not saying this because I do the show with Dave, but this is seriously, because I got a copy of it. It's not up on the website yet, but it's seriously one of the best things that you will ever read on the internet about pro wrestling. Anywhere, ever. It's just awesome.
Well, do you recognize
it's very depressing, but it's awesome.
Yeah. Now, do you recognize my childhood trauma? I didn't even
yes,
realize.
I do.
I didn't even realize I had it until the last 6 weeks. I've never gotten over those guys who killed roller derby. Anyway, let's see. Where are we? We will never talk about that again, though.
Yeah, we
will. Yeah, we probably will because it's happening all over again. Oh, where am I? Okay, so anyway, Undertaker finds out that the police, in fact, have traced the calls, and both phone calls came from Triple H's cell phone. Aha, a hint. Anyway, we've got a couple of new matches for the pay-per-view. Kurt Angle and Chris Benoit is now a 2 out of 3 fall match. The first fall... Okay, this is how they set the thing up. It's Kurt Angle, of course, gets to pick the stipulation because Regal gave him that opportunity because he fought Rikishi last week on Monday. So Kurt Angle says he wants a straight wrestling match with no stipulations. So anyway, it's like, that is awesome, right? Mm-hmm. But no, Chris Benoit has to come and say, if you had any guts, you'll go to these stipulations. The first fall is can only be won by pinfall. Okay, so no submissions. So that takes away half your arsenal and trying to do a fall. The second fall can only be won by submissions, which we've already seen that one. And as much as it will be technically brilliant, we've already seen how the crowd reacts to submissions because submissions aren't over yet. Maybe in a year from now if you educate the people for a year, but have I taught? Anyway.
I know I'm going to get some flack for saying this, but they screwed up on this match. They just ruined it. I mean, the whole thing is, I think the last time we had the best of 3 it was Benoit and Jericho. I think that was the best of 3 we had.
No, the best of 3 was Hunter and Austin. They had a match of the year out of it, too.
Yeah, but that doesn't count because they're main eventers. I'm talking about mid-card guys. Wasn't it Benoit and Jericho? They had a best of 3 falls match that went like 12 minutes or something.
Yeah, it was last year, and it wasn't, it was good, but it wasn't, I didn't think it was great.
These guys are not going to get 40 minutes. They're not going to get 20 minutes for the ladder match. They're not going to get 15 for each of the two, the straight match and the submission match. They're going to get probably like 5 minutes for the straight match, maybe 4 minutes for the submission match, and then maybe 8 minutes for the ladder match. And all three are going to be rushed, and it's not going to be a disaster or anything like that, but I guarantee you will all be let down.
I don't know about that. I mean, the one thing about it is when I look at this, is they do have the potential to put on a hell of a match. I don't like the idea of all these stipulations because, first of all, it's like we're getting to be like WCW where everything's got to be a stipulation in a match that doesn't need any stipulations. And do these stipulations help? I mean, the no submissions in the first fall hurts the match. The no pinfalls in the second fall hurts the match. Okay, it takes aspects of the match away that make it exciting. The ladder match could be really, really good. And may help the match. The negative of the ladder match is that we've seen 3 of them on pay-per-view this year, and it's only May, and the other 2 have been awesome, which means that if they do anything less than awesome, everyone's going to be disappointed. So, and
they're not going to get enough time to do anything awesome in that match. There's just no way.
You're probably right. I wish that they just did a straight wrestling match. It's too gimmicked up. Anyway, Benoit and Rikishi. The thing with the ladders, I keep thinking about ECW. And, remember ECW on every single pay-per-view? They had the exact same match over and over again. And, the ladder always got brought in, and there was always the pop when the ladder got brought in, but it meant nothing because it was on every pay-per-view. The big brawls where everyone blades with the Baldies and New Jack, and they always brought all the plunder in. And it was and generally speaking, on almost every show it got voted worst match. Because it's just they numbed people to it. If you do a match like that once a year, it can be really cool. The first time anyone ever sees a match like that, they think it's awesome. But that's the kind of a thing because it's, I don't know if the word's repetitive, but there's something about that where if you do it month after month after month, it becomes like that numb period, kind of like hardcore matches are now. And it's, or like Russo made the cage match. And I mean, the ladder's an awesome gimmick. Like the Hell in the Cell's an awesome gimmick. But if they do those things, like if they, every time we're at a pay-per-view, and it's 2 weeks out, and it's like we got no ideas, which has been happening a lot lately. And it's like, okay, let's do a Hell in the Cell or let's do a ladder match. Pretty soon, I mean, those are.
It doesn't become a gimmick anymore because it's on every show.
Right, and yeah. So anyway, Benoit and Rikishi beat Angle and Regal. Angle got the medals, but when he had him in his hand, Benoit got him with a crossface. So when he tapped, he dropped the medals, and Benoit got the medals back. So anyway, I guess the medals will be on the pole and the ladder match, and I guess that means Angle has to win at the end, which is kind of interesting. Anyway, Triple H finally arrives at this point, and he's shunned by everyone because he did such a horrible thing, such as make a
Hey, maybe they'll just do 2 straight falls and not even do the ladder match. Gotta swerve those fans.
They won't do that. They will not do that. That's somebody else would book that, but they will not do that. But anyway, everybody was just mad at him. Nobody would talk to him. Of course, he's mad at Austin for putting the heat on him. Anyway, you know what's going on here. Chyna beat Ivory and Molly Holly. She killed them both. Lita comes in and raises her hand, and Eddie Guerrero was out there clapping for both of them. So there's a storyline going there. Finally, Hunter and Stephanie scream at Steve Austin. Austin says he is repulsed by what Triple H did. He wasn't repulsed that the guy, commandeered to run him over and end his career, but he prank called the Undertaker's wife, and he's repulsed. They're all repulsed. Anyway, Triple H says that he was framed, and then Austin reminds him that Triple H is a liar, because when Austin asked him if he had anything to do with running him over, Triple H, in fact, said no. So Austin got him on that one. Triple H had to storm out. Yeah. Edge beat Chris Jericho. Christian distracted Jericho. Edge picked up a chair. Jericho did the lion salt into a chair and got pinned.
He's had a very bad last couple of weeks, hasn't he?
Jericho? Oh, boy. Yeah. Triple H goes to Regal and says he's innocent. Regal doesn't believe him either. Finally, Regal says that Triple H deserves to get his ass kicked by The Undertaker and makes it a no DQ match. Jericho, since he lost, said he's going to get a partner. Okay, what they're doing is all the guys that they have no idea what to do with, which would be the Dudleys, probably X Factor. What teams do we figure? Maybe Malenko and Saturn, I don't know. Hardys. Who's running around? Maybe the Good Father and Bull? I mean, I don't even know. There's going to be this big tag team elimination thing or battle royal or something, and then the winners are going to face Austin and Triple H. I'm presuming Monday on Raw to get the belts. Presuming. I don't know for sure. So that's all and Jericho says he's going to have a partner, but we don't know who it is. Anyway, Hardcore Holly beats Spike Dudley after the match. The Dudleys do a 3D on Crash Holly. Then Stephanie reveals the big clue that Austin told her that his battery in his car died and asked to borrow Triple H's cell phone. Aha. So
the battery in his car or the battery in his cell phone? I guess
know.
It doesn't matter.
In the long run, it doesn't matter at all, does it? So anyway, Undertaker and Triple H have a match, and Undertaker's just about to do the last ride on Triple H, and then Austin's on the screen, and Austin, in fact, admits that he made the call, but said that he had an accomplice, like anyone. And Hunter's standing there all stunned, too, and then Hunter beats up Undertaker, and it reveals, in fact, he was the accomplice, and they both beat up Undertaker until Kane makes the save, and that's the scoop. That's the scoop on the show.
That's the swerve.
That's the show. That's the show. And it reminds me of, how many Nitros?
About 1,000.
Yeah. Just remember one or the other. Hey, was Rock on the cover of Rolling Stone?
Or I think he is on the cover of Rolling Stone right now.
Yeah, okay, because got a...
With an interview inside.
Yeah, it says that it's a pretty good article, but not a whole lot on wrestling in the article. Let's see, it says it didn't go into too much depth about anything, but he has a personal assistant. Yeah, that's his, like, brother-in-law is his personal assistant. A trainer, which doesn't surprise me because most athletes at that. Trainer, this is funny, I just talked to a football guy today who was telling me, and this does not mean that this is like the case for Rock, but he was talking about the job of a personal trainer. You know, the athletes all have personal trainers, and it just goes, there's this
steroid cycle?
Yeah, I mean, just, he was basically saying that, like, there's this new category. There used to be, like, the agents, and now these guys that are making $5-6 million a year, they spend, several $100,000, and they have a personal trainer. He said the personal trainer is the guy who, like, makes their hotel reservations, goes on the road with them, parties with them, gets their food, all that, does their nutrition, cooks their food, so that's why they eat good and healthy, plans their workouts, supervises their workouts, gets their drugs, the whole bit. So anyway, that was
tells them when to take what.
Yep, that's a very interesting conversation I had today about that. And he has the same stylist as Jennifer Lopez and Ricky Martin. So that's something interesting to know. Yeah, today's poll: what is wrestling missing today in your eyes the most? A, good storylines. B, creating new superstars. C, not enough good interviews. D, not enough different companies. E, not enough good wrestling matches. So anyway, you can vote on those. You could probably vote for all of those at some point or another. I'm not going to talk about the poll because it was fixed, although the real results would probably have been pretty negative to WWF anyway. So I'll just say that. But they were negative. Let's see. Any more news before we hit emails?
I think that's it.
All right. This is from an unknown person who goes, I am no fan of China or any of the women in the WWF, but after watching AAA last night with the Hunter women, 1 and 2, what's that, Martha Villalobos and, God, who's her partner? I forgot. Anyway, they like...
I forget her name, but that was hideous. The one week before I watched was just, oh my God. In fact, it's exactly what I wrote. I said I would rather watch China and Lita than these women.
Yeah, he goes, I got to say, China and Lita was a 5-star match next to it. I didn't watch it last night, but I watched it last week, and, oh my God. I mean, I saw a match. In fact, Martha Villalobos was in it. It was at the Sports Arena in L.A. about 5 years ago. It was the Mexican women. And, I mean, I remember I gave it negative 4 3/4 stars, which I think is the lowest grade in the history of The Observer. I mean, it was probably the worst match.
No, it's not. Iron Sheik.
Oh, yeah. Was that like negative 459.4?
Yes, it was. Yep,
okay, you're right. And you know what? That match was worse. The Sheik match with the Bushwhackers was worse than that women's match. Okay, it's from Darren, who goes, I just wanted to make a comment on the top 500 list. I find any list that long just ridiculous because the middle of the list is way too subjective. What's the difference between 364 and 365? The Fortune 500 is the same thing. I'm sure the average rerun list for the top 20 at most. Unless the idea for the top 500 is to get your name out there, the list that long doesn't.
Yeah, but wouldn't the Fortune 500 be easy because you just find out how much somebody's worth?
Yeah, but they all lie.
You can't really put Bill Gates in the middle.
Yeah, but they all lie, though. I mean, how much people are worth, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But, no, I mean, I don't know. Rating wrestlers is hard, and you're right. What's the difference between 364 and 365? I mean, I give them credit for trying. Like we talked about this one, it's on DeathValleyDriver.com, and for those who don't know what we're talking about. And, I mean, I disagreed with, like, a lot of them. I mean, when Lance Storm did a thing on it, and I agree with, like I said, I agree with a lot of what Lance Storm said, but I also disagree with a lot of what he said as far as comments on it. But, you know, I think that there was, I don't know, I mean, everyone's got their own opinion and everything like that. I thought that they really, like, overrated a lot of indie guys that are not polished workers as compared to guys who are really, like, awesome workers that, you know, don't have as many flashy moves or, you know, whatever. But anyway.
I mean, I would never try and do a list like that, and I think it's cool to argue about where people are on the list, you know, that's fine, but I think that some people took that list a little bit too seriously, and it's kind of embarrassing, actually. Who cares? It's just a list of rankings of wrestlers. You don't have to go crazy about it.
Well, I mean, hey, do you ever know the stories about the PWI Top 500?
I've heard plenty. Yeah.
I mean, it was like, you know, wrestlers took that one seriously. I mean, I can tell you, and I don't want to embarrass the guy because he's in the WWF right now. Oh, well, Nova's different. Yeah, Nova was in the top 500 because they obviously had an oversight. They forgot it, and it turned into this big issue. But there was a guy who was ranked like number 10 one year, a couple of years ago. Maybe you can look it up, and everyone's going to figure out who I mean. So anyway, he was really mad because he was making way less money than the guy who was ranked number 9. And he felt that because that showed he was of the same caliber, he deserved the same money. And then then there was another wrestler in the WWF who is no longer in the WWF, and you will know why when I finish this story, whose name, by the way, was Ahmed Johnson. And he would start complaining about doing jobs because he was number 5 in the PWI Top 500, and none of these guys were like nearly ranked as high as him. So he couldn't understand why he should have to do jobs for these people. And you know why he got number 5 in the top 500? Because he was Bill Apter's friend. That's all.
Well, there you go.
I mean, if you ever look, and you know, the other guy who always does much better in the top 500 than perhaps he should because he's friends with the people who do the magazine was DDP. I mean, I remember one year, wasn't he like number 2 one year or something?
I can't remember.
That's not even important. Anyway, we're going to go.
The only thing was, if you're an independent wrestler, you just send in a photo to Bill Apter and he just puts you anywhere, even if he's never seen you.
Yeah, but I mean, like, you know, I mean, I know, like, Brandy McKevitz, who was doing it the last couple of years. I mean, it's her nightmare because it's like, you know, she does it, she tries her best. I mean, it's like, let's face it, the foreign wrestlers are always ridiculously underrated. I mean, and everyone knows that watches foreign wrestling. You know, you'll see some guy like Blue Panther at 250, and he's like, you know, one of the best workers in the whole world. So, you know, and then their thing is we can't put him number 5 because, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So the whole thing, it's an impossibility, which is why I guess me and Bryan will never do it. Remember that segment that Kurt Angle did with the Big Boss Man? I think he was trying to get the Big Boss Man to beat up the Big Show. It was similar to this one, where Big Boss Man starts talking about how, oh yeah, you know, I was the one who, like, you know, pulled his daddy's casket out, and Kurt Angle just was like, yeah. That was pretty amusing. Anyway, let's...
I just don't think he didn't say who the hell is that. He said what the hell is that about the Rhino.
Yeah. Let's see. Just to get off the WWF for a bit, here's an older WCW question I never found a good answer to. Well, this is from Scott Keith, who I actually know the answer to this one, believe it or not. Why was Kip Fry turfed in favor of Bill Watts in 1992? The more I go back and watch those early 1992 shows, the more 4-star matches I see with guys like Sting, Steamboat, Rude, Austin, and the rest of the group. The main eventers seemed spread out quite nicely. Even the mid-card stuff like Windham and Zbyszko was a big deal. Seemed like a big deal at the time. Super Brawl 2 was awesome. Yeah, that show was awesome. I remember that one. I was at that. The War Games was perhaps my favorite WCW match ever. Attendance seemed good. Sting was really over. Steamboat was resurging. So what happened? Did Dusty Rhodes pull a power play or something? What happened was Kip Fry had the best intentions at heart. I mean, I remember dealing with him, and of all of the people who ran WCW, I thought that he was probably the best human being of all of them. He also had very, very little knowledge of wrestling. I shouldn't say that because I didn't know Bill Bush, but and most people said Bill Bush was a nice guy in over his head, but and the Kip Fry thing is that a lot of the people who were underneath him, you know, he was like a corporate lawyer why he got the job, I have no idea. He was one of those Turner appointees that knew nothing about wrestling type thing. And all the people underneath that recognized he knew nothing about wrestling were like going like, oh God, oh God, oh God. And so anyway, as it turned out, things were going really good under Kip Fry for a while there. I mean, by the standards of WCW at the time. And then he had a couple of contracts came due, and the key ones were Brian Pillman and Paul Heyman. Paulie Dangerously. And he negotiated really big contracts for both of them. I think it was like $225 base, which doesn't sound big now, but in 1992 in that company, that was pretty darn big for those for a manager and for a guy who was a mid-card guy. Plus a lot of incentives. I mean, where both of those guys could have easily made $275 or $3. And I think the people above Kip Fry, when they saw those contracts, kind of freaked out. And the company was losing money at the time, and they just go, "Oh my God, we need someone who's gonna, like, you know, tighten the belt on this company and not lose us so much money." And of course, the word got out that Cowboy Bill Watts, he knows how to not pay those wrestlers. So they brought in Bill Watts to make a profit and to slash the salary. And in fact, those two were what was like two of his prime objectives. He ended up getting Paul Heyman out of the company, which ended up in a lawsuit that Paul Heyman, I guess, won out of court. And he tried to make Brian Pillman into an opening match jobber for him to relinquish his contract, and then promise him a push if he would, you know, sign for like half as much money, which Pillman refused to do. And just doing that alone made Bill Watts a very popular man in WCW, and the Bill Watts regime was a complete nightmare. Even though Bill Watts in his day, I will, you know, always tell people in the 80s, Bill Watts had probably one of the best wrestling minds in the 80s of anyone. The problem was in 1987, he stopped watching wrestling and went on with his life. I mean, he just stopped watching. And he came back in 1992, and he thought it was still 1987, and everything had changed. And it was really sad to watch, you know, like trying to explain to him that you can't ban moves off the top ropes, and have him go, no, the psychology is that, you know, and it's like, oh, God, you know, it's what can I say? All right, we got, anyway, just wanted to explain that. So that's what the deal was, why Watts got the thing. And then Kip Fry, actually the idea was that Kip Fry and Watts would work together, but Kip Fry, in fact, quit the minute they hired Watts because, you know, he saw it for what it was. Anyway, we got Frankie Kazarian on the phone. Frankie, what's going on?
Hey, how you doing? What's happening, man?
Not too much. Before we start, I saw your name. You're going to be wrestling Guido over the weekend. Tell everyone like some of the matches that you got upcoming in different places.
Okay, yeah, that's this Saturday in Woodland Hills. I got Little Guido for MPW. Let's see, the 30th of May, me and Nova are going to be going against the Ballards at the Galaxy in Santa Ana. And those are pretty much the only two big ones I got coming up until June. I got a few various indie dates around California.
What's Millennium Pro like working for, or have you worked for them before?
Yeah, well, actually, the last show I did for them was their inaugural show, the first show, and I had a lot of fun. You know, it's still a brand new promotion, so we'll see what happens. But I had a great time last time, and I'm looking forward to it this time.
How would you compare like the different companies that are down there? Because I guess like in LA, when I really sit down and think about it, there's probably 5, 6, 7 companies that are running in the area, isn't there?
Oh, easy. You know what? I would even say more than that. Yeah, there's all kinds. You got all kind of independents, and it just basically depends on the promoters. You know, this particular one in PW is pretty new, and there's a young kid, Paul, running it, and you know he seems to have his head on straight. He's doing a good job. But I've worked for a lot of different ones that guys are just out for money and whatnot. But it depends. There's a lot of them down here now.
How did you like? Well, the last time we had you on the show, you were going to Massachusetts. How did you like that trip?
Oh, that was a lot of fun. Not only did I get to visit, my trainer, Killer Kowalski, and a lot of my friends, but I actually got to wrestle Prototype, John Cena, in Somerville, Massachusetts. Had a great time, had a great match, very fun, very old school match, and yeah, it was great. I was there for about a week, and looking actually to go back in August, hopefully.
How's the thing with Nova going? I guess they kind of have you programmed as a tag team. You kind of have similar looks. I saw them taking all the publicity photos last month and everything like that.
Absolutely, yeah. That's going fantastic. I can't say enough good things about Nova. I've had a few different tag team partners over the few years, but he's by far the best. The guy's a genius in the business. Yeah, we have a good look. We've only had a few matches together, but everything clicks. The moves, psychology, everything clicks, and I'm having a great time with it. Really looking forward to working with him as much as I can.
One of the things I thought was real interesting with you is you have a pretty big commute just to go train. I mean, you're really, the dedication that you're showing. I mean, it's like you have to have that dedication, or you wouldn't even be in this business. Well, yeah, I guess is the best way of putting it.
Right. Well, I do live in the sticks. I live in Yucca Valley, California, which is about 30 minutes north of Palm Springs. And so for me to train, it's about a 2-hour drive, but I make it at least 2-3 times a week. But that's becomes second nature to me. You know, it's just I love this so much it doesn't even really matter. And you know, I take into consideration I drove 3,000 miles just to get trained originally, so you know, it's become second nature. And
you ever thought of like relocating closer?
you know what, I have, but I like where I am. I like the small town atmosphere. I like the nice clean air. You know, there's not a lot of people up here. Really small town. I've thought about it, you know, to save on gas and everything, but you know, I can deal with this. I can deal with the driving. You know, it builds character.
You know, I mean, the one thing about spending all that time in the car in each direction is, I guess, it takes away from, you know, time that you could spend, you know, training and all that. I mean, but I mean, not just training, but I mean, I know you're like, you know, into the weight training. You got to eat perfect. You know, you watch your diet and everything like that.
Absolutely, and that does, you know, it doesn't get in the way as much as it does as it used to. You know, I work 2 jobs still, regular 9 to 5s, but I got my schedule lined out to where I got my weekends off. I'm usually off early enough. I actually work in a gym. I'm fortunate enough for you know, in that aspect. And so I got everything lined out to where I have time to do everything. You know, just enough time, but I do have time to do everything.
At your regular job, do the people know that you wrestle on weekends and everything?
You know, a lot of them do, a lot of them don't. You know, like I said, this is a real small town, so a lot of people, you know, just, you know, by word of mouth find out. Like all my friends do, and people that I work with, they all do. But you know, if I meet someone for the first time, you know, I might not tell them, you know, but they'll find out eventually. It's nothing I'm ashamed of. As a matter of fact, I'm proud of it, and I will tell people. But most everyone up here does.
What's your thoughts as far as the current situation in wrestling, as far as with UPW? I mean, any big changes on the horizon there, or everything kind of status quo?
UPW, well, I've heard that we might, you know, I've heard a lot of things. You know, I've heard WWF is interested in really developing us as one of their, you know, premier training grounds. You know, I've heard rumors about, you know, TV starting up big time, a lot of things. You know, whatever happens with UPW, I'm hoping to be at the forefront of it, you know, and with UPW, there's so much potential there because we got such a deep roster, you know, anything's possible.
What do you think of Nathan Jones? Because I was, like, so impressed with him last month.
Big Nathan Jones, yeah, the freak. That's how that's one word to describe him. The guy is enormous and, you know, very, very agile. You know, his martial arts background on top of being, you know, the world's strongest man a few years back. Really nice guy, really smart, really intelligent guy, too, and he's got a great future in the business, definitely. A guy his size, you know, his willingness to learn is, that's really impressed me over the last 6 or 7 months.
Are there other guys that, like, we may not have ever talked about, but you're in the gym with them, and whether it's their desire or something or look or something, where you look at them and go, you know what, you know, this guy's got a good shot, or even a guy who doesn't have a good look, where it's kind of like a sleeper? Because you know, like those guys that Nathan Jones wrestled.
Yeah.
On that show, I mean, like
GAY, yes.
Yeah, GAY. I mean, if you would look at them, you would just pass them off and just go, you know, hey, they don't have a chance. But I mean, they got over really good, you know, working their gimmick as baby faces, and it's a heel gimmick.
Oh, absolutely. And GAY, you know, that's they got over strictly on their gimmick, and those guys we have what are called light shows every Friday and Saturday for UPW, and that's where guys show what they have and see if they have the talent or potential to get onto a Galaxy show. And these guys just work so hard on their gimmick, and they do it so well. It's, you know, their stuff they do is hilarious, and that's paid off for them, you know, and they're going to be on the next few shows. But there's a lot of guys in Southern California that I think are definitely, you know, bound for something. There's tag team the Cubanitos out here. And, you know, I would say without question they're if not the best, one of the best tag teams in independent wrestling. A lot of guys like Samoa Joe, who's going to be there someday. There's, like I said, especially in UPW, it's just loaded with guys that, you know, have breakout potential.
What did you think of when you came up to work for APW?
APW, you know, too much fun. Roland runs a really, really professional organization up there. I had a lot of fun with all the guys. They got some, you know, talented guys. When you're talking about Vinny and Donovan, Mike, Tony, the Jardy France, and his brother. A lot of talented guys. I've had a great time. We've been up there twice now, do the whole heel invasion angle, and it's too much fun. I think we're going back up in June.
Okay, you got a date in June? Is it going to Vallejo again, or do you know?
I believe so. I'm not positive, but I believe so.
Where'd you get the nickname?
The Future?
Yeah.
That is something I came up with. It's, you know, growing up, you know, always knowing this is what I wanted to do. I always thought that would be the coolest nickname. And so when I started out here in Southern California, you know, they asked me what I wanted to call myself. And I said, Frankie Kazarian, but, you know, you can call me the future Frankie Kazarian, because, you know, that's something I truly do believe, that I am going to be part of the future of this industry. So it's something I kind of came up with.
How long have you actually, when did you start training? I know you started training with Kowalski, and how long have you been in wrestling in Southern California?
I've been wrestling in Southern California, let's see, I've been in the business about 3.5 years, a little more than that, and I've been in Southern California for about 3.
So you started out with your first matches were out of Massachusetts, or no?
Yeah, I wrestled about my first 4 matches in Massachusetts, early '98, and I came back out here about late '98, and I started out here.
Anyone else training with Kowalski when you were out there?
Yeah, there's a few guys. Scotty Too Hotty used to stop by on occasion. While I was there, Prince Albert was training on a daily basis, and so you know he would beat me up quite a bit, which was a lot of fun. A few guys would always stop in, but those are pretty much the only 2 like names that were there on a continual basis.
Were you the guy that Albert used for the dummy when he had to try a new move?
You know what? I was a lot of times, because I was one of the guys that was willing to take the Baldo bomb and his spin doctor and all that stuff. So, you know, I was a young green trainee kid, so I was like, yeah, I'll take it.
Is there any like difference as far as training in Massachusetts versus training in California, or even the attitude of wrestling in the 2 places where you could say, hey, you know, this is something I could say is totally different? You know,
there is a difference. Out in California, especially in UPW, they're really concentrating on the psychology aspect of a match, to whereas a lot of places back in the New England area are more into like just, you know, getting in there and doing spots and learning like old school and like shoot holds and stuff like that. There's, you know, the common ground as far as wrestling goes, but there's little differences. And but, you know, a lot of it's the same. There's a lot of the same type of promotions, promoters. It's, you know, there is the whole common ground for as far as just independent wrestling goes, though.
How about as far as crowds go? I mean, wrestling a match in New England, and I know every city and every show is different as far as that goes, but wrestling a match in New England, Northern California, Southern California, what would you do differently, or is there just or is the location not important and it's just kind of feeling the crowd when you get out there?
Yeah, you know what? I don't want to say that New England fans aren't as smart, but I think California fans are a little more hip to the business, to where they expect a little bit more, to whereas you could go out there and do totally old school stuff in New England and get a pop. And you know, a lot of that has to do with the crowds. You know, there's a lot more kids in the crowds and different promoters. But I think California fans are a little more hip to everything and just a little more on the cutting edge, and you know, they want to see like newer stuff.
How, as far as the Galaxy goes, how does that differ from, you know, working a show there? That's kind of like your big show of the month compared to working any other shows.
Well, yeah, the Galaxy, you know, that's the one show that pretty much every fan in Southern California and around, you know, wants to see. That Galaxy Theater shows have like a kind of like a heavy metal concert atmosphere. You know, a lot of dancing, a lot of music, and all that. And that's, you know, those are the funnest shows to work in California, in my opinion. You know, because everyone, we pack the house every time. There's usually a WWF star, and those are by far the funnest. Not taking anything away from other independents, because I could go out there and have a great time in front of 10 people. You know, I wrestle the same whether I'm wrestling in front of 10 or 10,000. So, but the Galaxy shows, you know, those are the ones I look forward to every month.
You ever done any shows down in Mexico, like Tijuana?
No, I never have. You know, we were talking about this last time, and that's something I would definitely like to do. You know, because Tijuana is pretty close. I'm definitely going to start looking into that.
Yeah, I know. Palumbo just started there Friday night.
Did he really?
Yeah, and I think Mike Modest might be going there at some point soon. I know there's been talk about it. I mean, the one thing with the Tijuana, I mean, they usually get pretty good crowds.
Oh,
I mean, every
definitely.
Friday night. Yeah.
Yeah, those
4,000 people.
Oh yeah, they're really passionate about it down there, and I've been right down by the arena in TJ. Just visiting, you know, when I was a younger kid. And, yeah, it's something I would definitely like to do.
Have you ever been to the arena, like actually seen a show in the arena, or no?
Never have,
Oh, it's an experience. I mean, I actually think everyone should go to the auditorium in Tijuana to watch wrestling, especially a big show, because it just opens your horizons. It's something different.
Yeah, I would agree. You know, that's something I would definitely love to do.
How was working with Edge and Christian?
Edge and Christian, that was great. You know, they I didn't know what to really expect coming into it, but they did a great job. You know, they did a great job generally in the match. They gave us a lot of stuff, sold our stuff well. A lot of fun. A lot of respect for those guys.
Were they the biggest names you've ever worked?
Let's see, I've worked them. I've also worked Stevie Richards a couple months ago. those probably were the biggest names up to this point that I have worked.
Mm-hmm.
In the ring with them, just because they're out there on the road 200 days a year.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I remember because I saw the match. I mean, there was a certain polish that they have. I mean, when you're in the ring with them, can you see this as sort of like, I guess maybe the ring generalship or something that it's like was it a good experience in that you're going like, wow, it's like I'm a tennis player and now I'm working with a top pro. I mean, this is
absolutely you can see that. I mean, you can see a lot of things they'll do on the fly that just look good. Stuff that's not called, stuff that just their presence in the ring. Just it's like how they sell a certain move, or just the psychology they use. You can tell you're in there with somebody who knows what they're doing. Whereas I've been in there with guys that are the complete opposite of that. But it was such a learning experience for me being in there with them, and I was very grateful to be able to wrestle them.
What's the worst? If you can bring that, what's the worst experience you've ever had in the ring?
The worst experience as far as bad match?
Not necessarily, just something
experience.
Just an experience where you know that thing where you have that dream that you're at school and you have no clothes on, that kind of experience.
Perfect example. My first ever WWF match was February of last year. February of last year, and it was against Funaki, and it was a dark match. And we're doing the match, and everything was perfectly fine. And I decided to do a plancha on him. A move I've done, a plancha to the outside, a move I've done 1,000 times. But one time I'm in a WWF ring, I hit the ropes, jump over it, my feet catch, and I land flat on my forehead. And I was just like, could not believe that happened. And, it was one of those things at that point I wanted to quit. I just wanted to crawl under a hole and, and hide. But I was like, my God. Probably, the most embarrassing, humiliating, worst experience so far. But, nobody sold it in the back. No one really came up and, gave me any crap or anything. It was, if that was just them being nice, I appreciate it. But, that was a mistake that I learned from, definitely.
Oh, that
just not used to the ropes, or what happened?
You know what? I don't know. It's one of those things. I've done it on ropes. I was trained on ropes. And I cleared, upper body cleared, my feet hooked the top rope, and I just blam. It was probably a combination of nerves and, me trying to do too much and not trying to really, less is more a lot of times, and I was just trying to impress, the right people. So, but I did learn from it, and I can look back on it and laugh now, hopefully.
Yeah, that must be so bad that your worst experience was in front of the most people.
That's the funny thing is, I'm doing shows in front of 10, 12 people, everything's fine, but the first time I get out there in a WWE ring, like an idiot, I land on my forehead on the outside. And,
hey, at least you weren't wrestling Saturn.
Oh, Jesus. Did
you see that?
I wonder how he's doing.
That's a good question. If anyone knows, let us know.
I didn't actually
I guess he's all right. What?
I didn't actually see that match. I had heard about it, but didn't get to see it.
Bryan saw it.
It was
quite
a thing.
Brutal, huh?
Yeah. He seemed to be fine because they finished the match and everything like that, so I'm sure he's okay. But it's pretty interesting.
Yeah, hey, things happen, I guess, but
Have you ever been in the ring where it just totally fell apart? Like your opponent just was like a total asshole and just for whatever reason, just wouldn't communicate with you, and you just
froze.
I've been fortunate enough. I haven't had any problems like that, really. I've had matches completely fall apart where just spots go, completely down the tubes, and the match ends up looking horrible. But I've been fortunate enough, never been in the ring on a live show and had a guy, trying to prove something or, anything like that. It's happened a few times at practices and stuff, but, I've been lucky, never in the show, in a ring.
What would you say was your best match?
My best match, let's see. I'd have to narrow it down to a few of them. I wrestled March, actually, for the first MPW show. I wrestled Christopher Daniels and Adam Pearce in a three-way dance, and that was definitely one of the best, definitely in the top 5. My first show for UPW, I wrestled Mikey Henderson. That's definitely up there. I've wrestled. There's a talent in Southern California, B-Boy. I wrestled him a few months back. That was definitely one of the best. But up to this point, I'd probably say it was the Daniels and Adam Pearce three-way dance.
What's the story on Mikey Henderson? Because I've seen him for a couple of years now.
He's been around a while, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he's not that old. I mean, it's probably early 20s. But,
yeah, he started really young, at like 14, 15 years old, and by the time he was like 17, 18, he was doing, dark matches with Taka all over California. And, the guy's loaded with talent, great builds, and, I don't really know what's holding him back. I don't know really what the story is. I'm a good friend of Mikey's, but hopefully he'll get, he'll find his niche and get back into it.
Is it something like there's something holding him back, or is it more like he's got an interest in doing acting and stuff like that, and, that's more of his priority right now?
He is doing a little bit of that, too, and I don't know if there's nothing particular holding him back. The only thing holding him back, I think, would be himself. I know Mikey gets frustrated a lot of times, because he's been in the business already, a good 6-7 years, and he's so young, and, waiting for the things to happen, and, you got to be patient in this business, but, I wish only the best for Mikey.
As far as like Daniels and everything, what's your feelings as far as working with him?
Chris Daniels, like I said, I've often said it's it's a privilege and not a right to wrestle Daniels. I have nothing but respect for him. When I first came to California, that's all I heard was Christopher Daniels, best independent wrestler. And actually, when I wrestled him in March in that three-way dance was the first time I'd ever been in a ring in a show with him. And somebody has to pick the guy up. It's just bottom line. It's been said 1,000 times, but he's just too talented. Not only in the ring, but he has a great mind for the business. From like a booking aspect or just creative aspect, the guy's just unlimited potential.
Are there any promotions that you and with your work, are you limited to where you can go and what you can do as far as like wrestling outside of Southern California and Northern California?
No, you know what? I've actually in the last couple months I've been doing shows. I've done a few in Arizona last month, and I've done the Northern California. If I have time for it, I'll do it. Pretty much. If it doesn't conflict with something that UPW is doing that day, is fine. But if I have time to do it, I'll do it.
What's your thoughts as far as wrestling the Ballards?
Ballard Brothers, always have a great time wrestling the Ballard Brothers. In fact, I'm looking forward to that May 30th at the Galaxy. Those guys, they got their stuff down as far as tag teams go. Like I said, them and the Cubanitos right up there for dominance, at least in California. But always have a good match with the Ballards, never let down. They have tag team psychology down to a T, and probably the funnest tag team to work with.
Really?
Oh, absolutely. Because I love being in there with them. I love, they have a lot of good stuff down. I love taking their stuff, and it's always good to get in there with them.
We are going to go to the phone calls. We got Alan is up first. Alan, what's going on?
Hey, how you guys doing?
Hey, doing good.
Hey, I didn't get to listen to the beginning of your show, but I heard that you got a lot of emails about something with the WWF going to go back to USA or something.
Actually, I didn't get any emails on it, but I do know the story.
So is that true?
No, actually, right before the show, I was talking to somebody at actually, I had a lot of conversations with people at Titan this morning, believe it or not. In fact, we'll talk about that tomorrow. But nothing of any major significance. But as ratings go down, there's a lot of people who are pointing fingers at scapegoats, and I would say that it's probably accurate that they're not thrilled with TNN. And if you think back when this deal was made last year, and all the things that were promised. I mean, think about this. Remember, it was specials on CBS. And that's obviously not happening. They're going to have all these, radio advertising, billboards. All this synergy was going to work together from the Viacom. And I mean, there's been a lot of stuff on MTV, and a little bit of stuff here and there with other stuff. But I mean, I'm sure it's not what they expected when they made the deal. Nevertheless, Viacom, was paying them $30 million a year. And bought all that stock in the company. They paid WWF a ton of money. So, I mean, if they blow it, it's their own fault, too.
I think they'll probably work out the problem, or something.
Well, I mean, the feeling that I got, as far as any talk with USA, and again, I know Bob Ryder reported this, and I'm not saying he's wrong because I don't know that he's wrong. I just know that I've talked to a couple of people today who say that there is no talk whatsoever with USA Network. And also there's a feeling in the industry that USA Network probably wouldn't take them back even if there was, because they are happy to be away from wrestling. I mean, they've made it basically impossible for anyone to get a show there. And I mean, believe me, everyone's tried.
Mm-hmm. Also, have you been?
How could WWF get out of the deal?
I claim a contract. I mean, it's a 5-year deal. They can claim a contract breach. But I mean, what's the
breach?
Oh.
Yeah, I know. What's the breach? ECW had a lot of problems. Hey, it's the same network ECW was on. It's probably a difficult network to do business with, and I'm sure they're frustrated as hell over as far as like this whole trying to negotiate this WCW thing, because it's going a lot slower. The negotiations are going a lot slower, and hey, look at the time slot they're offered. I'm sure that they figured when they bought the thing that they could get Wednesday night in prime time. You know what I mean? I'm
what
sure
disturbs me is the ratings fall, and it's something like, well, God, this damn network here, as opposed to how about your product sucks lately.
Well, the ratings fall. The fact is, the ratings fall has nothing to do with the network because it's the same network they were on 7 weeks ago. So that's not the network. So anyway.
Yeah, have you guys been reading? It's interesting on the Honky Tonk Man's website. He has like commentary on his site seems like it's updated like every day or every other day.
Uh-huh. What's he said lately? Yeah.
Something about he's mad at Roddy Piper.
Oh yeah. He's gonna kick his ass.
Yeah, because I heard he wanted to book him against a girl or something.
Yeah, on the show Friday night in Eugene. Yeah.
Then he said something about Greg Valentine had a show booked against Harley Race. To wrestle Harley Race, and he said that Greg Valentine called him up and made up an excuse that his daughter was in an accident or something. So instead, he went to work for Piper, I guess, because he was going to get more money for his show.
Okay, I didn't know that.
And one more quick thing: I went to an indie show this week. Jerry Lawler was on the show, and I read on the internet somebody posted something about that he's not really worth it. Like some people have been booking him, and he charges. I don't know how much. I don't know if this is true or not, but they were saying something like $2,000, and it's not.
I don't know what Lawler charges.
Huh?
Yeah. I don't know what he charges, but I know that Lawler made a killing on that weekend because he did an autograph show, and then he was doing the Polaroids and everything like that, and I heard the lines were really... I just heard that, Lawler made a lot of money in that.
Yeah, he charged like... I didn't get a picture, but he was charging like $13, I think, a picture.
Yeah.
It was funny, I won a raffle at a wrestling match, and I won like a crown, the Lawler's crown. It was like a cheap one, but it had his autograph on it, at the wrestling show. But I don't know if he really drew any...
How many people were at that show legit? Because, I know that they said...
about Future Wrestling, probably about 600. That's what they've always run.
600?
Maybe about 600.
Huh.
500 to 600.
I had heard 900, but then Alex Marvez called me and said that there's no way he figured about 500, so...
Yeah, 500 or 600. A lot of people don't understand this, too. I don't... Like when he brings in, like, name talent, and he has, like, a world champion, and he also has this international champion... And people don't understand why he always puts the local guy over the name. But, it makes more sense.
You got to build up a local star.
Yeah, and say, for example, Lawler won the match and won the belt. Is he going to bring in Lawler like every month to defend until he loses it? He doesn't want,
I give Lawler credit for being a pro. Mm-hmm. I like and Frankie, talk about this on that last Galaxy show. I really gave tons of credit to was Dreamer. With Samoa Joe, as far as Dreamer was the guest coming in, and he was, he's a bigger star obviously than Samoa Joe. He was challenging for Samoa Joe's title. Samoa Joe's got to be there each and every month, part of the show. Oh, yeah. And Dreamer put him over clean with his move. There was no bullshit.
That's happened a lot of our shows. And I would think that defending independent promoters, they like to, like you said, they like to build their guys up. They like to put them over as well.
Yeah, like the Sandman also last time when they had the show, the Sandman lost to the local guy, so. It does make more sense in a way to do that.
I hope they didn't pay Lawler with Bobby Heenan's credit card.
Let me ask you a question. One more question. Who's that guy? I didn't get, at the beginning, he works for UPW that we're talking to on this.
Frankie Kazarian?
He has one of he's one of the guys under a development deal?
No, not a development deal, no.
No?
Yeah, no.
So
he's tagging with Nova right now.
I'm sorry? Oh, he's tagging.
He's tagging with Nova right now.
But him working for UPW is a good chance of him getting a development deal because most of the wrestlers.
Well, they saw him. Jim Ross saw him wrestle and praised him in the Ross report. So
it's gotten me looked at a lot more than anywhere else I've been.
So what? Hopefully, a lot of the guys from the development groups will be getting a shot. Hopefully, even in WCW to build up the roster, or the WWF.
I hope so. We need some new faces out there, man.
Yeah,
we do.
All right, well, take care, everybody, and good luck in the future.
Thanks so much, Ryan. Alan. I just wanted to read this because this is also about the SmackDown show last night. It's from John Stammerman, who says, I attended SmackDown last night in Louisville. After watching Raw Monday night, I also was dumbfounded after Austin ended the wife injury accident angle with. I think she's going to be fine. After seeing bad shows over and over again and then listening to you guys talk about how bad the shows have been over and over again, I was really ready for a step in the right direction, and I think last night's show was that, which is good. The Austin Undertaker Triple H commentary backstage was well done, even though you could see everything coming. That's not good. The segment with Austin on the phone with Undertaker's wife was well worked, too. While I don't think the wife injury accident angle was good from the beginning, they did end it a lot better on SmackDown, killing two birds with one stone and adding much heat to Judgment Day main event with Undertaker's injury. The actual wrestling was average. A few spots were missed, a few went over well, but it's nothing new. Historically, we've had good storylines, angles, and commentary to cover up the average wrestling. In the past month, without the good extracurriculars, it's a lot easier to see the bad wrestling. I tell you what, I mean, I thought the wrestling in the WWF this year, up until the last few weeks, has been pretty damn good. Forget about the commentary and all. Yeah.
I mean, the thing that worries me is I can kind of understand where they're going with Hunter and Austin as these badasses that lay out the baby face at the end of every single show. But it's kind of like they're waiting for Rock to make the big return, and it's like no time soon. I can't handle them doing this for another 3 months. Yeah, it's like the whole thing with the NWO. I mean, they would beat up the babyface at the end of every show, do the whole spray paint, everything would be thrown into the ring. But the whole thing was you were just showing how pathetic these WCW wrestlers were, and it was killing the company.
Yeah, because I think they realized that their product has been on a decline, but they have to get through this pay-per-view and get past these storylines. SmackDown, in my opinion, was a great example of this. Looking forward, The Rock and WCW are going to be the medicine to ease our pain. I hope they are. I am looking forward to something, whether it's a WCW or something, just to freshen up the mix. But I think that, that WWF, they desperately. I mean, I was this morning when you'll see the thing that I wrote. But I mean, when I'm really looking at this, the one thing they need really bad is a real top babyface right now, like Monday. You know what I mean? It can't be Undertaker. Yeah. So anyway, that's that. Let's go to
who could it be?
Toronto.
Hey guys, what's going on?
Hey, it's going really good.
Yeah, it's a great show so far. Dave, I just rented the UFC 18 tape where you and Eddie were two of the judges.
Oh, the one with Mark Coleman and Pedro Hizzo.
Yes, that's actually what I was going to ask you about. Now, were you watching the same match as the rest of us? Because
yeah, can I tell you about that though?
Yeah, because I was really wondering about that.
Okay, almost. Because I was there, and then I watched the next day. I watched that match probably 4 times when I got home the next day. Okay, now, almost, if you look at where I am, okay, and that's why they have judges in 3 separate parts of the thing, okay, where I was, almost all of Pedro Hizzo's offense was right in front of me, and the thing that you couldn't get, and you can't get this watching the TV, and you can only get it being there live, is how ungodly those kicks from Pedro Hizzo were to Mark Coleman and how badly bruised his leg was. And when I came back and watched the show on TV, I thought it was, and I'll tell you, even then, I'll tell you, I thought that fight was a draw. And at that point, they didn't have a scoring system like they have now. In fact, that's among the reasons why they have a scoring system. And unfortunately, with the scoring system, if you watch the last pay-per-view, with the scoring system, Randy Couture won the fight. I think that if you didn't have the scoring system, I think Pedro Hizzo would have won the fight. So there's pluses and minuses of anything, but I thought that the fight live was a draw. I had to pick a winner, and Pedro Hizzo's leg kicks did more damage than Mark Coleman's punches while he was on top, and that was largely the difference. And also, at the end of the fight, for better or for worse, Mark Coleman was much, much more tired than Pedro Hizzo, although Pedro Hizzo did not press the advantage, and he didn't do enough in the overtime. I mean, I was sitting there going like, I want one of these guys to do something in overtime to win. Mark Coleman was totally gassed. He wasn't going to do anything. Pedro Hizzo just didn't do anything, and then the bell rang and it's over. I'm going like, what the hell do I do? I mean, it was that close, and it was like, you're not allowed to pick draw. The people who were sitting in the same corner with me, there were people who thought Pedro won real easy, and there were people who thought Coleman won real easy. It was real mixed. I mean, I think that watching it on tape over and over again, I really thought the fight was a draw. Because Coleman didn't do enough to win. I mean, as far as, so anyway, that's my thoughts on the fight. But if you watch the fight and where I was sitting, almost all of Hizzo's offense is right in front of me. Almost all of Coleman's offense was right in front of Tim Catalfo, who was the one who voted that Coleman won the fight. And Eddie Goldman was the one who, they didn't fight much in front of him at all, so he was the deciding vote, as it turned out.
Do you find that takes away from going to see a UFC show live, and that you can't see those little things from when they're both on the ground and they're not facing you?
What do you mean?
Well, in that, there are those times when, like let's say you'll see two fighters on the ground and one of them keeps trying to get a submission, but if you're not really close to where they are, where you can't see it, if you're on the opposite side of the octagon, you can't see those little things. Do you find that to be a major drawback from seeing it live?
No, because it's much better. I'll tell you what, you see way more live than you do on television.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't say that. But there were thoughts of...
I mean, if you're in there and you want to, judge the fight, it's probably better to, maybe watch it on TV or something like that. But as far as, the whole atmosphere, I think it's just better be there live.
Right.
No, the one thing that TV doesn't get across is the power of the blows. I mean, you can see the blows, but you don't hear that thwack. And, I mean, that's the one thing with Pedro Rizzo, is that, his leg kicks in that fight were sick. Now, Coleman... he never went. He was, the leg kicks never knocked him down. I mean, he was bruised as hell. I mean, he was real upset because it was like, hey, I took all those leg kicks, but, it's like they didn't hurt. I mean, but you got this giant bruise. But, it was a fight. I think it was a fight that neither guy won personally, right. And somebody, or really lost.
Hey guys,
it was a tough decision.
I can actually attest to the power of Pedro Rizzo's kicks because I saw the damage that he did to Kevin Randleman because Kevin showed me what Pedro did to those,
and that was
legs.
And that was a horrible fight.
It was a horrible fight, and actually Kevin pulled Pedro aside and said, "Look at what you did to my leg," and he pulled his pants down, and you have to see the bruises on his leg. So believe me, I agree with you, Dave. The TV doesn't really translate that well to when you actually see it live and you hear Pedro kicking somebody. It is a loud sound. It sounds like a gunshot. It's amazing the power of his kicks.
Wow.
Yeah.
And another quick UFC question. Has Bolander fought in the UFC since that fight with Ortiz?
No, he has not. He's fought in King of the Cage, though.
How's he done in that?
I know he got beat by someone at one point. I haven't really been... I think he's won most of his fights. I know he's still with Shamrock and everything. Frank Shamrock will be on tomorrow, and he's known Jerry Bolander forever, so he would probably have a better idea of what's up with Jerry Bolander, but... Yeah, no, I haven't. I know I have not seen Jerry Bolander fight since the Ortiz fight, and he got hammered pretty good in that one.
Okay, and one last quick question: would you ever have Dan Lavransky on the show?
That's a hell of an idea for a guest.
Because I think he's really entertaining.
He's entertaining. He's really smart too.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know what? I would. Yeah. I do the thing with him every Saturday and Sunday. So yeah. I would. We should get him on as a guest. Absolutely. Yeah. Good.
Cool.
That's a great idea.
Okay.
All right, thank you very much. Okay, let me get to a couple of these emails. Frank, how close did you read Sports Illustrated last week, or do you ever read Sports Illustrated?
I do. I didn't catch it last week though.
They had an article, and I guess it's been in the New York Times. This is actually because I just got an email that points to this. And Bryan, did you read it by any chance?
No, I went to try and find it, and I couldn't find it.
Okay,
it was off the newsstands by the time I got there.
Okay, they had an article on. I guess we talked about this the future of athletics. And gene therapy and things like this. It was it was fascinating. But the guy, this was Steve McCann, who goes.
Wait, I didn't even know about that one. I thought you were talking about the one with Fox or with the football players.
Oh no! This is the next week's issue.
Oh, we never talked about that one.
Okay, they have an article. It's like the new scary thing in sports in that they've manipulated. Basically, what's happened is that some researchers have gotten mice. And they've manipulated by inserting genes into them somehow, and has enabled the mice to have 30% more muscle than an average mouse, and also they've enabled it to where they maintain the muscle throughout their lifetime. So in other words, the idea is that, as we age, the body starts to go, and the theory is that, and this was the Sports Illustrated article was, my God, we could have these guys at 48 running as fast as they could or lifting as much weight as they could when they were 24, and we wouldn't have these things like, they mentioned Joe Namath or Bobby Orr or any of these athletes or even Elway or whatever. All these athletes, they come to this point, they're awesome athletes, they got to retire because they're old, that maybe they could go 10 more years. It was just fascinating. And they're just talking about its impact on sports and how, look at how great sports has done, with the steroid thing. It's like, so, I don't know. Just
going to have
really,
genetically created athletes someday.
Well, they were talking, they kind of have done that in East Germany and Russia already. I mean, that
Karelin.
Yeah.
Well, not just that, but no, Karelin was just a freak at birth, but and then plus with the drugs, but theoretically, but no, but
I think the fact that they call him the experiment should tell you a lot about the theory there.
And the fact that when he was like 33 at that Olympics, he looked like he was 60. God, did he look old?
He
but
did.
you know the thing with these Germans is what they would do is they would mate their top like athletes, the top male and female athletes together to the idea, kind of like they breed horses to create these genetically, these athletes, that would have the great gene. They actually did this in those countries.
Wow. Well,
the East Germans did a lot of strange stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, they did. Frank,
I was just gonna say, you can only mess with Mother Nature so much, That's strange. I'm actually gonna have to check out that article. I'd like to read about that.
Have you ever like as far as your background and stuff, as far as the bodybuilding and everything like that? I mean, have you ever done bodybuilding at a competition level, or has it just been one of those things where you just train, was it basically for wrestling,
Yeah, well, when I first decided to get into wrestling, I was, right out of high school, just a scrawny little kid. And, and I started bodybuilding, and it's become, my second passion, other than wrestling. In fact, if I wasn't into wrestling, it's probably one thing I'd like to do is just compete bodybuilding. I never have, but, I love it. It's pretty much my only hobby I do besides wrestling. It's like, I'm here, I lift, I bodybuild, and, I wrestle. But, that's something I would love to do, I don't know if I have the genetics for that myself, but,
How close and strict are you on diet right now?
Right now, I'm really strict. I pretty much stay strict year round. I do go through like phases where I try to bulk up. I'm always trying to gain quality mass, but right now I'm pretty strict. I got some big shows coming up, so I'm doing a moderate to lower dosage of carbs. A lot of reps, trying to cut up a little bit more. Like I said, I stay pretty strict. Pretty disciplined year round. And I'll always give myself like one day a week to cheat, but even on that day, I don't really, do anything too bad.
Is that ever hard on you mentally, as far as, or when you're hanging out with friends and they're just gobbling down the pizza and the beer, watching a fight or something?
You know what? Starting off, it was, but I've been doing.
And after a while, you just look at them and it's not a problem.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Seriously.
Exactly. But it's gotten to the point where, even everyone knows they could, order their pizzas and they'll be like, oh, there's Frankie over there with his protein bar and his gallon of water. And it's like, yeah, enjoy your pizzas and your double burgers and your side of cholesterol.
Your double chin.
Right, exactly. So, and it doesn't really bother me anymore. Not at all.
What you guys miss that I have, unfortunately, is that two of my best friends are like freaks. And I mean, they do no steroids. They both train very hard. I mean, I'll give them that. They train very hard, but they eat the worst diets in the world. And I'm sitting here dieting strictly, and these guys have abs.
I know people like that too, and it makes me sick. It's ridiculous. I could train, double what they train, and, diet, and they look better than me.
Yeah, I mean, because they're over here pretty much almost every Saturday night if there's a fight, and they're drinking beer, and one of my best friends he's same age as Flair. Okay, so he doesn't look that great now, but when he was even 45, okay, he never watched what he ate. He trained like a madman. I mean, I give him that.
Yeah.
But and it's just he was big and ripped. I mean, and they had these quads and hamstrings, and it was just like, Jesus, I was one of those people who I just couldn't get legs no matter how much I squatted. I could get the upper body, but not the legs.
Gary, I do know a few people like that.
Yeah.
It's like for me, everything I've gained, I've had to, really work for. I guess it just comes natural and easier to some people.
Yeah. So Bryan, so you have it easier with your friends, huh?
I sure do.
Let me just see what stuff we got here. Okay, I'll just. I read a rumor. You'll love this one. I read a rumor on a news board that Vince is purposely keeping the ratings low with bad storylines in order to make it harder for a new company to start up.
Wow. Hey, you got it. You hit the nail on the head. He's sacrificing his own business.
Yeah.
Just so he can launch WCW.
Don't know about that one.
Yeah, there's so much pressure on those writers. You don't even know. And think about this.
Especially now with ratings falling.
Yeah, well, there's going to be more finger pointing on everyone because of that too. But most of your TV shows that you're watching, they do 22 episodes a year, and they do 30 minutes. These wrestling shows, it's 4 hours a week, 52 weeks a year.
Mm-hmm.
I'll tell you what, some of the stuff they did, like last night, when I see a storyline of the show, and it's the same as a Nitro storyline, and it's like, oh God, I just went through that whole thing with Nitro, of how they ruined the company with those bad storylines. But at the same time, God, what a hard job it is, and how are you going to come up with new and fresh stuff?
It's just like everybody always goes, I would love to have a job with WWF writing TV. Where can I apply? What can I do? And they just don't understand what a task being a writer really is.
Yeah, what hasn't been done? Pretty much there's so much has been done.
And the pressure on you. And then the other thing also is that, like, it's not like you can come in here and go to the WWF and write it and go, okay, I'm going to have, Chris Jericho beat everyone all the way to the top and make him world champion, because it's just like, you can't do that either.
Yep, ain't going to happen.
Yeah.
And, as far as that article that you wrote that we were talking about a little bit earlier, the thing was I was reading it, really long article, and throughout the whole thing, I just was thinking to myself, okay, at the end of this article, Dave is going to name the big babyface breakout star. But it was never there. And I was just thinking, so who could this be?
Because I don't know. I don't know. That's
just the whole thing. Who could it be? I can't think of anybody, really. That's ready right now that hasn't been buried.
So maybe you just got to make someone. Hunter. Even Hunter. I don't know.
Yeah.
If he turns, the problem with him turning now is they've teased it so many times that I think the people when he turns are going to go, yeah, but he's going to turn back on us in 4 months anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know what I mean? And I think that's the problem with that was the thing I used to hate with WCW, is they would like fake the Kevin Nash turn or fake the Bret Hart turn. And then when it finally came time to doing the turn, the fans never believed it fully, and they were always, kind of, you know what I mean? They didn't go with it all the way because they didn't want to be fooled. They didn't want to be fooled, and I think that's the problem that Hunter's going to face as a babyface. They'll cheer him like crazy, but I think that they'll all know in the back of their heads that he's turning back. You know what? You know who it might be? You know who it is? No doubt about it. Now that since you've asked me, I got the guy without any question. Bill Goldberg. Yeah, seriously.
Oh, sorry.
I know.
It's not going to happen, though. I know. Frank, as a worker, who in WWF, when you watch that show, who are the guys who you look at and go, man, this guy really knows how to work? Who are your favorite guys to watch?
Obviously, I'm a huge fan of Triple H. Fellow Kowalski alumni. Just his psychology alone is awesome. Chris Benoit can work. Chris Benoit and Chris Jericho, Kurt Angle. I've loved the series that Angle and Benoit have been doing. That's pretty much it's still pretty much the only reason I'm watching it now. I'm not really entertained with everything else, but all those guys are obviously top notch. But those are the few guys that I do actually look up to and aspire to be like.
When you see somebody like Angle, who's done it so quickly, what do you think it is? Is he just? I guess he's a freak.
Yeah, it's just a combination of a gifted athlete. Obviously, you win a gold medal. Combination of that, just the charisma. Just he caught on with pro wrestling so quickly, and he just has it. They always talk about having it. He has it. Same. Look at The Rock, same type of thing.
The thing with
he was genetically engineered.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, the thing. By the way, I guess that. Oh, we'll talk about this later. But I guess that Vince, after listening to this, the last segment we did, he's offering a genetic. I'm blowing this. Al, why don't you tell the story before I screw myself up?
You mean the email that we just got from someone?
Yes.
Okay. Where is it? Okay. What? See, of course.
All about
when I go to get it, my computer crashes.
That's right. That's why Brian's got to do the comedy and I do the straight stuff.
Here we go. This is late breaking news from the WWF. This just in. Vince McMahon just signed those genetically altered lab rats to developmental deals. They report to OVW next Monday.
Okay. So anyway, that's the story there.
Cornette gets all the mutants.
Oh God! But with Kurt Angle, you know what the thing also with him is? I think he's like super. He's got to be like super open-minded because a lot of guys, you got that thing with the guys that were the super good amateurs or shooters like shoot fighters, and the fact that they were so good in a shoot it almost holds back because they kind of equate it too much. Whereas Kurt Angle was able to totally, use what he knows and use his skills for amateur, but totally drop the pretense of taking seriously wins and losses and taking seriously his real character and doing this, character that they kind of gave him. And it's, like a lot of the amateurs.
He's talked about how hard it was for him to adapt to that, but the thing is, he has adapted. He's talked about how being lifted up in the air and thrown around is totally against everything he'd learned for 20 years, but he had just adjusted to it so quickly. That's the whole deal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Frank, in UPW, are there any guys that you've seen, or who are the guys you've seen that just, I don't know, you just see their improvement before your eyes the quickest?
Let's see here. Like I've said it before, Samoa Joe. He's been in the business, year and a half only, and he's
Really?
leaps and bounds above, people that have been in years.
I didn't know. I didn't realize. Wow. He's good for a year and a half. He's really good.
Yeah, a year and a half, 2 years tops. Keiji Sakata also, really improved and really improved with ring psychology. He's always been a gifted athlete, but his ring psychology and his intensity in the ring has just gotten really good. I saw the prototype. He, when I first came to UPW, he was, obviously a great, awesome physical specimen, but his in-ring ability was, so-so. Now he can general a match. He's really good at reading opponents, really good at psychology.
Do you think as far as the guys that are really making a lot of improvement, as far as the training goes down there, do you think that it's more intense? I know it's more well-rounded because, they do a lot more training on interviews than most wrestling schools.
Oh yeah, we do. We have a whole day dedicated to what we call promo class, where you do character sketches, you do promos on everyone, and there is a lot of emphasis on that because that's a very important part of the business anymore.
Who down there of the new guys really impresses you on promos?
Of the new guys, let's see. Well, there's a guy.
Of the guys there.
Well, the guys there. Hardcore Kid can really cut a good promo. Really entertaining, really funny. Prototype, before he left, genius. It was on the fly, really good like that. We do got a bunch of guys that are pretty good on the stick. Adam Pierce, new with us, and he's really good just on the natch. And a lot of guys that are in the class every week are learning, better and better.
When I saw Adam Pierce, one of the things I thought about him was on the show is that there's a lost art in wrestling, and that's the old manager thing. Mm-hmm. And I was thinking because he can bump and because he can work, that he might be real valuable. Because I was very impressed with his talking. That he might be really valuable as like a heel manager, someone bringing a heel manager in. And when the time comes, they can do physical stuff with him because he can take it and he's good at taking it. So
absolutely. That would be a great idea. He's got a lot of talent. He's working on his look, I know, right now. And I didn't realize how good of a talker he actually was. I only met him a few months ago when he moved out here. But yeah, that guy's loaded with talent.
Because one of the things, there's that thing where, there's that feeling that you have to have that major league body or that major league look to be a pro wrestler. But if you can talk really, really good, and you can bump, it's like there's never been a manager that I'm aware of. And there's probably someone who's going to point out someone. But if you look at your most successful managers, whether they were Heenan or Jim Cornette or any, none of them had good bodies. They had terrible bodies.
Oh no, yeah, absolutely.
And but they could do what they could do, and they were extremely valuable in the business. And like a lot of guys, if they don't have good bodies but can work and talk, it's almost like the idea, well, he doesn't have a major league body, forget about him. And I think that especially if they're short, it's good because it's better for the manager to be short because it makes his protege look tall.
Oh yeah, and it's like, a lot of guys have great minds for the business. They might not have the great bodies, but they have the great minds, and those guys should be used, in like a managerial type role.
Yeah.
Very few guys do combine, the great body and the great mind. Most of those guys usually succeed at a higher level.
Yeah. Yeah. When you see guys as far as WWF goes, as far as some of the other ones, Benoit, watching him work, do you kind of look and go this is what I could learn from him and things like that?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I'm always, I don't really watch wrestling. I still do watch it as a fan, but I watch it as, homework. And, anytime I see guys like Jericho, Angle, Benoit, Triple H, The Rock, I'm doing homework in there, and I could pick apart each one of them and learn, a lot from every one of them. So, I could definitely, absolutely.
For you yourself, at the size that you are, you're kind of like that in between size. You're not small, you're not huge.
Yeah, I'm a tweener.
What do you think? What do you think? Good shape. What do you think? You need to like where you want to be, and to get where you want to be. What do you think you need to develop? Because you're not going to walk in there and be a monster. It's just not going to happen.
Oh, absolutely.
And you're not so small that you're going to be like a Rey Mysterio and do like the moves that nobody else has ever seen, like constantly.
And get buried.
And get buried, right? Yeah. So what?
Oh, as far as me, for what I have to do, like I said, I'm always working on my physique, and I would like to get a little bit bigger, but not big to where I'm like immobile, but just to keep developing my skills. From day one, I think my wrestling is what's gotten me over. And obviously keep working on the mic and developing the mic skills, because that's such a crucial part anymore. But I think in the end, my wrestling will be what gets me somewhere. So as long as I keep doing that and coming up with innovative stuff, that's what I'm going to keep working on.
Okay, I'm going to get a couple of these emails here. This is actually on. I remember reading that the highest grossing feud in Japanese wrestling history was Takada and Keiji Muto. I was wondering if that was for Japan or the benchmark for every feud all over the world. Also, is there an American feud that's just as big or bigger, and what would it be? I've always thought Hogan and Orndorff was the highest grossing American feud. Is it? Hogan and Orndorff was huge in 80...
You have to say Rock and Austin after WrestleMania.
Yeah, well, you took the words out of my mouth. I mean, Hogan and Andre, you can't... they only wrestled a couple of times, in the 87, 88 era, but, they had the most watched wrestling match ever in the United States. It's a number that'll probably, I don't want to say never be topped, but certainly no time in the future. They had, 33 million people watching? That's, it's an unheard of number.
Unreal.
What?
It's just unreal.
It's unreal.
Think about that today.
Yeah, 33 million people watched that match. So, and then, their match
at the peak of Monday night, it was 12 million. They had 33.
Watching two shows combined. The most to watch any match ever on Raw would have been about I think 2 or 3 matches broke the 10 million mark. I think it was Rock and someone with Rock and Shane, wasn't that one of the biggest? And there was Austin Kane had a real big one.
In that cage match?
I don't remember
that was
exactly.
one of them.
Yeah, Austin Kane or Austin Undertaker, one of those two a couple of years ago, I think holds the record. And there was some stuff with Rock and Shane McMahon. There's that, but it's like triple. The biggest Raw match ever was watch that NBC match with Hogan and Andre. And then, their WrestleMania match. The one thing is, they not only did 500,000 buys on pay-per-view at a time when 5 million people or 6 million people had pay-per-view, which is unbelievable, but they also did like 500,000 more people at closed-circuit theaters. So, more people watched the pay-per-view of Rock and Austin, but realistically, for its time, this is still a bigger... Hogan and Andre was still bigger. Rock and Austin, that's right up there, too. Hogan and Orndorff, as a house show feud that went everywhere, maybe was the biggest. But, when Austin had his run, and the WF was strong about 2 years ago, they were doing that same kind of business, because they were selling out every arena, for a while there, or doing lots of sales. So that was a big one. NWO and WCW was a big one. Muto and Takada was the only one that did 2 straight dome sellouts of 65,000 right in a row. A lot of people did the ones, like Hogan and Andre did the one sellout, but they never came back with the other stadium-sized sellout. They did 6 million and 5 million. So in that regard, you could say Takada and Muto, for 2 big shows, one after the other, where the second one was almost as big as the first. Yeah, that was real big too. So you're comparing like so many different things, I guess. This is from Jason Plank, who is a radio account executive in Columbus, Ohio, who does not see things too bad. He just says that things are not as bad as they seem. I agree that the show has been bad of late, and they're doing some stupid things, but I think the decline in the ratings has as much to do with the season as it does the bad shows. I don't think so, because if you look at
There's never been a season like this.
There's never been a season. That's right. There's never been a season like this. The post-WrestleMania lull will wear off after Judgment Day. Believe me, if this thing wears off after Judgment Day, I will be so happy, because I want it to wear off so bad. Also, the ratings are dependent on the samples. That's true. but they're usually pretty consistent. You know, I mean, we've seen as time goes on.
You can't complain about the ratings and whether or not Nielsen is accurate or samples or whatever now, because you weren't making that complaint when the show was doing awesome.
And he goes, also, thanks for the clip of Edge and Christian on last night's show. We need them, Kurt Angle and Chris Jericho, to be elevated. Say goodbye to The Undertaker and Kane. They're done. Why do they insist on keeping them in such a high place? I mean, the reason is they don't have confidence in the other guys, and they got to get they got to. And the whole
thing was, I can't remember what it was on Raw, but there was a section with, in fact, it might have been SmackDown, but anyway, it was like Kane and Undertaker, and I think Hunter was talking about his feud with Kane or whatever, and I just thought to myself, what fan could really be interested in this now? Hunter and Kane?
What do you mean by, well, I mean, I've done the
I don't know how anyone could really be just sitting there at home going, wow, this is really great, Hunter and Kane.
Yeah, you know what, I think that, if they say they're not confident in guys, they need to give guys a shot to prove themselves, because we need, I've said it before, I think, personally, we need some new faces up there.
Well, if you go back 2 years ago, before Hunter and Rock got super over, maybe 2.5 years ago, the fact is that, we could have sat here and explained why, Rock didn't have enough experience, and Hunter had been pushed for years and had never gotten over, why they shouldn't get pushed, but the bottom line is they both got pushed to the moon, and they carried their push, and it was... that was the greatest era in the history of the company. So you got to do that again.
Oh,
I agree. It's from Tony Fleming, who goes, I am one who thought Lita was a good worker. After the last couple of weeks, I've gotten a real good appreciation of how great Dean Malenko really is.
Oh, yeah. He did a miracle.
Yeah, he goes, almost Ric Flair level to make her look as good as I thought she was. He goes, what's really scary is I thought that she also had good matches with Jackie. The thing is
Jackie's not, well...
Jackie's experienced, though.
Yeah.
She's an experienced worker, whereas a lot of the women that Lita has worked with of late, are very limited in experience. Although, I always thought Molly Holly was, at times a pretty good, I'm not going to say great worker, but, solid, well-trained worker. She's trained hard and everything.
If you look at the women in context with the guys, she's not bad.
No, not compared to the guys. The problem with the women, I think, is that very few of the women, and none, are as good as the guys.
Yeah.
Like in Japan, where Japanese, where the women's wrestling at times has been super popular, it's because the women are actually the best women workers were probably better than the guys.
Yeah.
Frank, you ever watched
the thing with Dean Malenko that Dean was so good was he just knew exactly what she couldn't do and didn't let her do anything stupid. He didn't let her throw one horrible punch, nothing.
Yeah. Frank, have you ever watched the Japanese women wrestlers?
Yeah, you know what, I have, and actually about a year ago, some Japanese women came out here. There was a photographer from Japan, and he was looking at a few guys, and he brought a couple girls out here, and I don't recall their names, but they worked, and I was just like, Jesus, they made us look horrible.
Killing each other.
Yeah, exactly, and
Have you ever had contact with anyone from Japan or thought about going there?
I would love to go there. I haven't really looked too much into it. I haven't really had any contact. I know people that do, like Rick Bassman from UPW, obviously has a contact with New Japan, All Japan. But I would like to. It's something I definitely would love to do before my career is over. And if the opportunity arises, I'll jump on it.
There's also where is D'Lo Brown? D'Lo Brown is wrestling in Puerto Rico right now for IWA with Tiger Ali Singh and Chaz. This is from someone in Europe who says that I just watched Liverpool win the UEFA Cup, and it was 5-4 goal in overtime. And I'd like to point out that Davey Boy Smith was in the crowd watching the match, but the commentators failed to spot him. How do you miss him? How do you miss him? Last I heard he was huge. He was huge again. Let's see. It's from Matt who goes, I got 3 questions. What was the gate for WrestleMania? It was about $3.5 million. What was the merchandise? God, I don't remember. It was $1.1 million. And how much money was made off the paper? Yeah, and how much money was made off the pay-per-view? $40 million gross, which means that Vince probably took in 16, 17, probably 17.
Yeah. Yep.
Oh. It's so weird.
That pay-per-view deal. Those guys really get the shaft.
Yes, they do.
$17 million off of $40 million gross.
Yeah, if I was Vince McMahon, not so much now, because if I was Vince McMahon now, I wouldn't even think about money. I would just think about having fun if I had all that money. But if times get tougher, and then they will, and you do a show where like that show, and you're doing a $40 million show, and they're keeping 23 and you're keeping 17 and you're producing it and spending all the money and they're just putting it on the air.
Airing it.
They're airing it and that's it. Man, I would be pissed. God. You know, that was a when pay-per-view started, those cable companies, they set up a system that, boy, they make a lot of money for just flipping a switch, basically. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Wow. Let's see, this is for Frankie. On Heat a couple months ago...
How much could it possibly cost for Vince to start his own in-demand type system?
He's looking into it. Or I mean,
Got to be less than $23 million that he got shafted out of with his pay-per-view.
No, but the whole thing is, it's very little that's in demand. That's the cable companies themselves, and you can't bypass the cable companies. I mean, you can't.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
You know, because of that, in demand is probably only keeping 7%, which is really actually not that much. If you look at their thing, you know, as the middleman, that's not an outrageous number. It's the 50% that the cable companies keep that's, I think, the outrageous number.
Yeah.
You know, because your local cable company gets half of that thing, and you know, you want to talk about cable companies. I mean, I just hate cable companies. How's your cable company, Frank?
My cable company?
Yeah.
It's Adelphia up here, but, you know.
Sucks?
Yeah, basically. Just pretty much like every other one.
Yeah, they're so unresponsive, you know, I just can't. And they do those commercials. It makes me want to throw a brick through the TV. You know, with the little kid going, "You've got a dish?" And it's like, thank God I got a dish. I get to watch what I want. I don't have somebody telling me what I can't watch.
Yep.
Let's see. Anyway, this is for Frankie. It says, on Heat a couple months ago, there was a ninja following Kai and Tai around New York. It says, the eyes in the mask looked like you. How would he know? That wasn't you. Or was it?
Wow.
Was that you?
You know what? It was not.
Yeah. Okay.
That's cool that somebody knows my eyes that good, I suppose. You know.
I don't know about that one. Let's see. What did you think of the Super J Cup 2000? It was nowhere near as good as the other Super J Cups, but there was some good wrestling in it. I mean, it's good, you know, but it's not through the roof or anything. But those are the other two J Cups, or the J Crown. J Crown was awesome. The J Cups were really great. What Japanese event should I pick up from this year? Bryan, what's best Japanese thing for this year?
From this year?
January 4th Tokyo Dome was a very good show.
Maybe like all the TV leading up to that Tokyo Dome?
Yeah, that was the last year. Like October through January, New Japan was great. And then after January, it's kind of not been, it's been so-so.
The Super Junior tournament's probably going to be pretty good.
Yeah, it'll probably be good. The Toriumen, you know, almost everything I see from Toriumen's very fun. It's fun to watch. Osaka Pro is fun live. The women, I just watched an All Japan Women's TV show, and I mean, I still, it's really good, you know. But there's nothing, I mean, nothing through the roof. The match we talked about, Minoru Tanaka and Takahiro Murahama on New Japan TV a couple weeks ago was probably the best match I've seen in Japan this year. That match was just really kind of incredible. Because what's the best match on AAA when Worlds Collide? That was Eddie Guerrero and Love Machine against Santo and Octagon, which is one of the better matches of that whole decade, I think. Did you ever see that match, Frankie?
No, I did not.
Oh, that's an awesome match. It was at the LA Sports Arena in 90.
Out, yeah.
Yeah, Love Machine. Oh God, what a great heel. I mean, one of the best I ever saw.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, wow.
Nobody ever got to see him because, you know, it was almost all in Mexico, and then he died when he was 28 years old.
Yeah.
But it's really, yeah, he was a great performer. Here's an interesting one. Let's play a game of What If. Bryan, Frankie, you can do this one.
Okay.
Suppose that in 1999, when WCW began to fall apart, they had somehow gotten Steve Austin and the WWF had somehow gotten Bill Goldberg, but everything else would have maintained the same. Austin would have been swearing and flipping off people on WCW TV while Goldberg would have squashed everyone on WWF TV. Do you think WCW would still be around today with the same booking?
No, they'd have killed Austin.
Yeah, I say it's, you know, a lot of it depends on storylines and writing, and I just don't think WCW would have known what to do with Steve Austin at that point.
Well, considering they had him.
I mean,
once.
when Bret Hart first jumped to WCW, he was hotter than Steve Austin at the time, and they totally wasted that guy. So why would they have done anything different with Austin?
Killed him. Yeah, I agree.
There's your answer. You're right. When he, you know, it's funny. You know, they you know, WWF tried to kill him on the way out, and it backfired. And yet, WCW like still could they you know, that was one of those things where you had like the gold mine handed to you, and then you just pissed it off because you know you had some jealous guy and you know who
he filled it up with dirt.
Yeah, that was looking back. I mean,
McMahon turned it into a character for himself.
Yeah, I know.
Vince is the one that benefited.
Yeah,
Vince, that's right. And Vince became a heel. That's what you know. I mean, that helped make Steve Austin too because he was feuding with Vince.
Absolutely. So you know, one thing leads to another.
Yeah, you know what, and you know what else? If Vince got somebody as hot as Goldberg at that particular time, I think that Vince would have made Bill Goldberg into an incredible mainstream celebrity.
Absolutely.
So I think everything would have been. You know what? I think everything would have ended up the same.
Yeah. Vince always gets the last laugh in wrestling. That's just more proof right there with Bret Hart.
Yeah. Let's see. What is the nature, this is actually from Dave Marsh, what's the nature of the agreement between WWF, UPN, and TNN? If WWF's ratings continue to slide, could they cancel WWF programming, or is there some sort of a contract they must carry for a time period? There must be is there a financial penalty if they cancel? Is there a minimum rating WWF must deliver? I don't know what the contracts are, but I mean, the TV business is an unfair cruel business. Cruel business. And there's always a way, like the XFL showed, NBC had a 2-year contract, but if the ratings are bad, they can get rid of you. I mean, if the ratings on SmackDown were to tank, UPN could get rid of them. I think that, you know, I
really tank on UPN though.
Yeah, I know, compared to everything else on it. I mean, I think SmackDown's
TNN.
Well, TNN, I mean, come on. TNN's not going to ever want to get rid of, that show. I mean, it's like their whole BS PR campaign is all fake it's using WF numbers. Yep. It's like, they're 143% increase in adult males. You take that wrestling show out, and they're the exact same network they were, a year ago.
I don't think that the reruns of the Rockford Files could carry them without the WWF.
They don't. Yeah.
Dukes of Hazzard, maybe.
Maybe.
Yeah. So yeah. I mean, WWF is pretty safe. I don't. Think about it. I don't know why they're so. Well, I mean, I guess I do because they don't want to be the wrestling station. But there's quite an argument for them to put like that WCW show on, like on.
Why not be the wrestling station? Could it be any worse than that stupid The Pop station or whatever?
Yeah, they got Pop.
No, it couldn't be worse. But they don't know it. But you're right, it couldn't be worse. Let's see. What else do we have here? Okay, we'll just take this one and then we'll go. Then we're gonna get out of here. Frankie, have you seen Vic Grimes wrestle?
Yeah, I have. I've seen him wrestle. He's done a few shows for us down in UPW. Actually, saw him have a sick hardcore match down here.
Because this is a question about Vic Grimes. What are your thoughts about Vic Grimes?
Mm-hmm.
What are your thoughts?
Oh, I'm sorry, my thoughts. Well, I haven't seen him much, but really nice guy. I met him. Really hard worker. Crazy. Some of the bumps he'll take is sick. I saw him wrestle a triple threat match down here with Samoa Joe and Cincinnati Red, and it's probably one of the best hardcore matches I've seen, at least on the indie circuit. But if not nationwide. And, I met him briefly, and from what I thought, he was a great guy, and I think he's a good talent. I think he could be utilized somewhere someday.
Yeah, I just wish that he worked a little bit more on his basics, because he's got a willingness, and desire to entertain that's amazing. I mean, he will do, I've seen him do stuff that a guy his size just shouldn't be doing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
But sometimes guys do tend to drift from the fundamentals, which is what's going to get you to the dance, ultimately.
That's and you're right. You're right about that, because if you notice, like, and a lot of the guys that are like high spot guys and nothing else.
Mm-hmm.
But if you like watch WWF TV, with one or two exceptions, and and those are guys with good gimmicks or just been around for a while, almost everyone is fundamentally solid when they're up there.
Oh, absolutely. That's one thing I've learned a lot, especially in the last year, is that they're going to look at your fundamentals and what you can do. I know guys that can do triple jump moonsaults and all this stuff, but that's. A lot of times it's not really important. Sure, it's pretty to watch, but, can you do the basics? Can you sell? How's your psychology, and on and on.
Yeah. Frankie, I want to thank you very much for doing the show.
Bryan and Dave, thank you both. Had a great time.
Okay, we had a great time with you, and good luck in your match this weekend and your match on the 30th at the Galaxy.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. And Bryan will be back tomorrow with Frank Shamrock at 5.